Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Ethan Klein slash H3. Now, I don't think I've really talked about him except for maybe a couple of times, if even that. However, my timeline has been flooded for, say, the past, I think, 2 weeks at this point, talking about H3 and his behavior on his show, H3 TV. Honestly, at this point, it's getting hard for me to keep track of the H3 channels because back in the day when I started even watching H3, it was only on one channel, then there's the podcast, then there's H3 TV, then there's also like the snippets of H3 on another channel, I think. I'm just gonna say it's confusing to me. He's been flooding my timeline, not him necessarily, but people commenting about his most recent behavior. Just to be clear and state my biases, I have watched H3 in the past. There are some videos that I enjoyed, 5-6 years ago, like Vape Nation, like little skit type videos. Those were the ones I enjoyed. I don't really watch his podcast, and I'd say that I'm neither a fan nor a hater. I've agreed with some of his stuff, I've disagreed with some of his stuff, so I'm just kind of a casual watcher. I haven't watched him in a long time because, like I said, I preferred the kind of funnier, older content rather than more serious content from him because I think he's just better at the funnier stuff. Basically, what happened, what kicked off all of this shit show, the most recent shit show, let's say, is that on H3 TV, he was talking about gay men and especially gay sex and gay sex positions, like being a bottom, a power bottom, so on and so forth, like specific terminology. This was not taken well, mainly because he basically said, if I said something wrong, call in and tell me what I said wrong. So someone calls in and I'll put a clip of what they say. Basically, this person tries to not necessarily correct Ethan as much as telling Ethan their point of view, saying, you know, the way that you talked about gay people and sex and the implications as well as the assumptions you're making are just detrimental, so maybe don't do that. Basically, that's it. The way Ethan reacted to that initially was to ask questions, which I was like, okay, if he's asking questions and he wants to better understand from a gay person's point of view, like what X, Y, and Z mean, that's a positive thing. Like, I would completely support that. But then things got ruined. I'm just gonna put part of the clip here and then we'll talk about it.
Power bottom is a guy who likes to wildly ride the peg of another dude while he jacks you off until both have bone orgasms.
Yeah. Get down to the power bottom of things here on the H3 podcast. I love you guys so much, but y'all really need some LGBTQT.
Why? What did
Shut up.
What did I say wrong?
Shut up.
Colin, if you have a problem with my character...
You got it right. I mean, you literally got it right.
What power bottom was.
Yeah. Shut up. You don't know anything about our sexuality anyways. The fuck do you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
How dare you assume that none of us are...
You don't know shit.
LGBTQ+. How dare you assume that? Okay, we have a call about the top-bottom stereotype. Hey, Matt. Oh, so, Matt,
wow.
what have I got wrong?
I know often you feel inclined to describe someone where you think they might be a bottom. And I think that that's often a misconception, that like bottoms may be passive or the
well, I just mean that he likes
partner.
I just mean that he likes to take it up the butt.
But how can you know that about someone?
Well, that was just a theory about because he wears diapers. It's just a theory.
Oh no, there have been times I think one that comes to mind was maybe Jordan Peterson that you described as probably being someone that would be a bottom. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But like I've heard you at times maybe say like, oh, this is someone that might be a bottom. You can't always tell like who's the top, who's the bottom.
So do you find it offensive if I say by being like, oh, he's probably a bottom? Is that the problem? To make
absolutely,
it's offensive.
Because the gay men already you have to deal with certain assumptions about femininity and masculinity.
I mean, it is funny though. I don't know. I think the problem is that the term power bottom is very funny to me. Sometimes, you know, these alpha men give power bottom vibes. I think maybe the joke is the dichotomy of like their persona of ultra masculinity but then like the joke being that they're a power bottom.
I think the ascription of like throwing out that someone is just a bottom, like because it just ascribing certain roles to people. That's all I'm asking for is just be a little more conscious of it.
So would you consider yourself a top or a bottom, or you don't do that the labels?
And I mean this with all peace and love and with respect, Ethan. It's none of your business.
But you have a preference one way or the other.
But that's another dangerous assumption too.
Can I guess?
A lot of gay men don't.
You tell me if it's right. If I guess right.
No.
Well, you know what? I'm not gonna get into it, Matt. But we all know which one you prefer.
But as long as you understand where I'm coming from on this.
To be honest, I don't really.
Okay,
to be on the bottom is to give.
It's
to give. You know, it's a gracious thing to give and to receive like that.
Power bottom is a bottom who is just the more active bottom.
Oh, okay, I see. So they'll ride it. They can ride. A power bottom will ride it, where a regular bottom will just kind of lay there. So the power bottom is someone who rides enthusiastically. You don't need diapers or anything, right? But like if you are a regular receiver of anal sex, and I'm not saying you are, I don't know. But if you were, does the poop pass like any differently from before? Is it all normal functions? Like I get it doesn't leak out, but I wonder if it just comes out a little different. If you're on the bottom, it doesn't mean you're like a beta. You could be alpha and also still be on the bottom.
As you can see in the clip, it's cut. This was like from a clip I found online, so this isn't all entirely linear. But basically you see that Ethan, I think, doesn't become necessarily defensive as much as it doesn't seem like he's taking the person seriously at all, because he starts asking the person, which is so inappropriate, honestly, especially on, generally speaking, I don't really think you should ask unless you're in a relationship or friends or whatever, but on a show where millions of people are going to see, asking someone what position they are or what position they prefer is really inappropriate. But on top of that, it just shows that you missed the entire point this person was making, which was saying you can't make assumptions about people. And it's also like none of your business if someone happens to be a power bottom or a bottom, especially because what Ethan did was also mix in the ideas of masculinity and femininity and what it means if you're a power bottom in terms of masculinity and femininity. And again, the person was saying you can't make those types of assumptions because you just can't, you know, it doesn't mean anything necessarily automatically if you like one position or another. Ethan didn't get the point. Then Ethan went onto Twitter, and we all know that as soon as you go onto Twitter, things just get a lot worse, and he posted an apology. This is what the apology said. To my LGBTQ plus fans, I'm sorry for comments on today's show. The sexualization of gay men and the grouping of tops and bottoms is a stereotype that I will be trying to unlearn. Apologies to the caller too, who I shouldn't have pressed inappropriately. Hope you guys know I always mean well. This apology was not particularly well received because in the past it seems like basically every week there is a new H3 apology, and as much as like I'm all for people bettering themselves, it's also very difficult, I think, for a lot of people to really believe it for reasons I'm going to show you in a second, but also because someone literally just told you don't make assumptions and don't like cross these types of boundaries with people where you make stereotypes out of them. And his response was basically to ask, are you a top or a bottom, or like what are you, basically? So if in the immediate someone tells you something's inappropriate and you ask that, the apology kind of seems just like a notes app apology, those kinds of apologies where you kind of feel like the YouTuber has a gun to their head to apologize, but you don't really know if they mean it. A lot of people don't think Ethan means it. A lot of people in the LGBT community, especially gay men, were offended by this. This apology was on April 11th, okay? So on the 23rd, he posts another apology. And I already was like, okay, what the fuck did he do now? Especially in such a short span of time. Like, how many apologies can you put out? Like, how many times can you fuck up? Like I said, I don't watch his show, but via context, you don't really need to watch to know what he said. He said, to my English fans, I'm sorry for my comments on today's show. My judgment of beans on toast being gross is a stereotype that I will be trying to unlearn. Apologies to all English people who I should not have pressed inappropriately. Hope you guys know I always mean well. Additionally, I apologize to all beans on toast eaters around the world. This pissed off a lot of people because, frankly, if the whole prior apology with the gay stereotypes hadn't happened, if he just made a satirical apology, which plenty of YouTubers have done before to just make satirical apologies, like I think Phil DeFranco does it every so often, it's fine because you haven't just been in some kind of scandal, controversy, drama, whatever you want to call it. But if 2 weeks ago, basically, you were genuinely apologizing for something that offended a marginalized community, people aren't going to take it well when you make a satirical apology after, because then it's like, it makes the prior apology seem like a joke as well. Does that make sense? So that's how a lot of people were seeing it based on the comments I was reading. And I can understand why, because it's like, we were talking about a really serious subject and you apologized for that, and people already have difficulty believing your apologies, let alone if you then make a joke apology 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? It just is not, basically it's not a good look, and it makes you doubt any apology at that point. But like I said, had there not been the original apology, the genuine one allegedly, this wouldn't be a big deal. But in context, looking at the full picture, no. Again, on the 23rd of April, he says, I'm sorry for my apology on today's Twitter about beans on toast. My apology for my comments about beans on toast being gross was offensive to some, which I truly didn't intend. I thought it was a silly joke about beans on toast, but I missed the mark. I will do better. Frankly, when I read this, I couldn't tell if it was satirical or not, which usually is not a good sign because, like I said, if you do fake apologies or like satirical apologies after what's supposed to be a genuine apology, if you apologize for a third time, at this point I'm lost. I think that this is still satirical because, frankly, someone saying that they think beans on toast is gross is not controversial, at least in my opinion. So I do think it's satirical. It's doubling down and just like not taking the feedback of what people are telling you is not in their minds appropriate. And by all means, freedom of speech, you can say what you want. But I'm just saying a lot of the times it's in your best interest to think about how people react, because sometimes you might be wrong and sometimes you might want to change your actions. If you don't want to and want to keep going with the apology for an apology, so be it, but then don't be surprised when people don't trust your real apologies. Lastly, the last thing he posted as of when I'm filming is a meme where it's me apologizing 3 times about a beans on toast joke, and it's basically one looks like a drawing and the other one looks like a Renaissance painting of just suffering men or men that are like laboring. That's the last he posted as of right now. Honestly, a lot of people think that this is, I don't want to say a downward spiral. I don't want to use terminology that is too dramatic, like the beginning of the end, but they do think that he is, first of all, baiting people, but second of all, that he's just continuously fucking up in one way or another and then apologizing for it, but not changing anything. That's what I've seen a lot in the comments, that there are all these apologies, which that's great, apologize, but if there's no changed behavior, the apology basically falls flat, and that's how a lot of people see it. Now, then there are these satirical apologies, which don't make anything better. On the contrary, I think a lot of people see it as immature, which I can also understand. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.